Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the R Lounge. The fictional world is rife with stepmothers who are highly unpleasant, or even murderous monsters. Think Snow White's envy-ridden stepmother, the witch in Hansel and Gretel, who banishes her stepchildren into the woods. Both belong to a class of evil women. Today on our lounge, fiction becomes reality. Stepmom despised me and kept me away from Dad's funeral, now regretting it after Dad's will was disclosed. Things have been very devastating for me ever since the sudden demise of my mother. Though it was like 15 years ago, the scars and the events that unfolded after that continued to haunt and traumatize me. I'm 32 male, and this is about my evil stepmother, who has hated my guts ever since she married my dad. It disgusts me even to call her stepmom. Let's just call her Judy. Prior to her entry into our lives, I had a happy childhood with loving parents and an adorable sister. My parents loved each other. Me and my sister used to adore their relationship. Then, one fateful day, my mother collapsed, and she was rushed to the hospital. We never saw her again. I was 17 then, and my sister was merely 13 when we lost our mother. My father was heartbroken. We tried our best to support him. I took care of the house and my sister. I don't know if it was the grief or loneliness that my father remarried just 6 months after my mother's demise. It was unexpected. Even my grandparents were shocked by this news. Everyone thought that he was too much into my mother. No one imagined him to move on so fast. Not sure if he had actually moved on or if he married to help himself move on, but we never discussed that part. In fact, my father never told us he was thinking of getting married or if he was seeing someone until a few days before the wedding. Usually, in this case, people involve the kids and make them comfortable with their would-be stepmom, dad, before planning a wedding. But Dad didn't do that. I don't know why. Actually, I was very distraught by his second marriage. I couldn't just see any random woman replacing my mother. I wanted to move out of the house, but I couldn't leave my sister alone in that house. Judy was an evil woman. Not that she did anything to us, but she ignored us and hated our presence in the house. She used to be super sweet with us in front of Dad, but in his absence, she was never bothered about us. I never spoke to her, but sometimes my sister would ask her about something, and she pretended that we didn't exist. She cursed us under her breath. She had no job except for leeching on my father's money. She shopped and spent the time with her friends. Her family and friends were always lined up at our house. We could not do anything freely in our house. We had no privacy, except in our room. Her family members were always in the house. It annoyed us so much, but we could not say anything. We were not evil kids. Our parents had instilled manners in us. We never crossed our boundaries, no matter how much we hated her. As soon as my sister completed her school, we both moved out. We both lived in our school and college hostels. Shortly after we left, Judy had a daughter. We never went home again because it didn't feel like ours, with Judy and her daughter living there. The house now belonged to Dad's new family. Dad used to visit us and take us out, but eventually we distanced ourselves from him. Not that we hated him, but we were just not comfortable with him after he suddenly rubbed his new life in our faces. But Dad didn't give up. He still called us regularly to check on us, visited us. After college, my sister moved in with me in my apartment. By then, I was earning well in my job. A few years later, my sister also got a job and got her own apartment. Dad was proud to see us excelling in our careers. He's 65 now, and his health is not that great. This holiday season, he is inviting us to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas with him. My sister and I both want to spend that holiday season with Dad, but we don't want to see Judy and her daughter. Last time, some 5 years back, we visited our house. That was the last time we went home. It was Dad's 60th birthday. Judy was annoyed at our presence, and she made it evident to us. She didn't speak to us, neither greet us nor offer us anything. We felt like a stranger at her house. The guests were almost mostly her side of the family, except for a few of Dad's friends and colleagues. Now, the thing is, in this situation, me and my sister are in the dilemma if we should really spend the festivities with them, or should we skip it? Skipping it would hurt Dad. He had insisted we join him, but if we go, it means ruining our own mood. My sister suggested that we call Dad to our place and go on a vacation with him, but I think he wants to spend it with Judy and her daughter as well. They are his family too, like us. It would be unfair to ask him to choose between us and them. I dread meeting Judy, but I think we'll have to do this for my dad. We'll update the thread after the holidays. The timing of your dad remarrying suggests that he was seeing Judy before your mom passed away. Maybe your dad was having an affair, OP, and maybe that's why Judy doesn't like you and your sister. Perhaps you both remind her of your mother and the life your father had with her. An old life. Moreover, if you don't go see your dad over the holidays, and his health is deteriorating, you may regret not going later on if anything happens to him. Don't worry about Judy and don't let her ruin your holiday. All that matters is quality time with your dad. Update 1. The holiday season is over. It was indeed special this time, with Dad. After so many years, it reminded me of the time when Mom used to be there. It used to be so much fun. I think Dad took his lessons from the last time, his 60th birthday incident. This time, he asked Judy to keep her family away from Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas Eve. Dad invited his friends and relatives. For a change, my distant uncle and aunts also joined the dinner. We met them after so many years. Judy and her daughter didn't seem to be happy. Judy always involved her family and friends on all the occasions at our house, and Dad was putting up with her all these years. But this time, when Dad insisted on only having his family, she resisted it. But Dad had now put down his foot this time, and Judy had to cancel calling her guests. I think now he's able to see the true colors of Judy. If Judy was evil, her daughter is 10 times more than her. She is no less than a monster. She's barely 12, yet she throws tantrums like an adult. She's just so narcissistic and wants the world to be around her. She wants everything at her fingertips, and if she doesn't get it, she screams and curses at the top of her voice and brings down the house. It was evident that Dad hated her attitude because me and my sister were always so obedient and civil. I think that's why Dad realizes how well my mother had raised us and how terribly Judy had raised her daughter. She was not happy that we were there. She was screaming that we were intruding on her private space by just sitting in the living room with Dad. I noticed Dad was furious at her and, in fact, did try to school her in private, but she has gone too far to be leashed. When we were leaving, Dad said that he would visit us in the next few months. My sister insisted that we go for a family trip, the 3 of us. For us, family is just Dad and us, not Judy and her daughter. Judy also never considers us family. In fact, I think she doesn't consider Dad to be their family. He is just a money-making machine for them. So, we are going for a short trip next month. Hope this will rekindle the bond between us and Dad. So glad to hear you had a wonderful time with your father. It's sad that Judy has walked all over your dad for so long and realistically probably just used him for money. Hopefully he's come to his senses a little bit and starts to cherish the time with his original children a bit more. Update 2. The trip was fantastic. We had a blast. We had never seen Dad so happy. We feel he's also trapped in that relationship. But by the time he realized it, it was too late for him to take any action. He was just putting up with a monstrous mother-daughter duo. To our surprise, Dad stayed back with me after the trip. I felt like he didn't want to go back to Judy. I introduced my long-term girlfriend to Dad, and they both bonded well. She lives just next door. Dad was worried that his stay might be invading my privacy. I assured him that he could stay with us as long as he wanted. My girlfriend also pushed him to stay with me. She doesn't have a father, so meeting with mine was a good experience for her. She loves spending time with him, going for walks, shopping with him. My dad also treated her like a daughter. My sister lives close by, so she also used to drop by my house during my dad's stay. We had dinner together for most of the day. On weekends, we went fishing or camping in the woods. It was just so good. We had never been so happy and complete before. Dad went back home a few days back, and we really miss him. He said he would visit us often, now that he was retired from his work. It hurts me to see him lonely in his own house. He is getting old and not keeping fit. At this time, he needs the love and support of his family the most. I highly doubt he's getting it with Judy and her daughter. Me and my sister are trying our best to keep him happy. He said he would visit us again. Let's see. Sounds like your dad is really trying to get away from them, but doesn't really know how. Or perhaps he's really missing you and is regretting not spending enough time with you. Either way, it's nice to see him wanting to see you and your sister more. Update 3. There is bad news. Dad passed away a week ago. I didn't get the time to update it earlier because of the other unnecessary hassle going around in our lives. After my last update on Dad's stay at my house, he visited us again 4 to 5 times in the last 6 months. He was just so lonely at his house. He searched for opportunities to spend with us. With every visit, he looked weaker. He was not keeping well, but staying with us made him feel better. We couldn't be happier to have him with us. The last time he visited us, he broke down during one of the dinners. He said every time he visited us, he feared it would be the last time. We cheered him up and asked him to stay with us for a longer time. He stayed, but not for long. I wanted him to stay with me for the remaining part of his life, but the challenge was he had no friends near my place. He knew no one. We lived downtown where people barely talked to any strangers. When we were at work, he used to get bored. Living in his own house might be suffocating for him, but at least he had friends and neighbors to chill out. Our world came crashing down last week when I got a call from my uncle about Dad's sudden demise. My sister, girlfriend, and I left for the house immediately. Judy didn't inform anyone about it. It was Dad's neighbors who had informed Uncle when he saw all of us missing from the funeral. Uncle then informed the other relatives for us. I called Judy to ask about the funeral. She didn't talk to me properly. Her daughter took the phone from her and said Judy was too distraught with the loss and wasn't in a state to talk. But none of them sounded depressed. We lived some 1,000 miles away, and it took us a while to reach that place. Uncle lived closer to the house, so he was able to reach before us. After reaching the house, he got to know from the neighbors that the body was already taken for burial, followed by the funeral. The neighbors also informed us that Dad was not keeping well for the last few days. He did not step out of the house for his walks. A day ago, he was rushed to the hospital when his pulse dropped, but Judy did not inform any of us. He didn't have any major health concerns. It was just that he was getting fragile, and his immunity was draining low. He passed away last day in the hospital bed. The next day was Dad's funeral. Judy had a day to inform us, but she didn't. When the neighbors didn't find any of Dad's side of the family, one of them called my uncle. By the time we got to know and rushed to the house, he was already taken to the burial. I called Judy several times, asking her to delay it for a while, but she didn't listen. She hung up the call every time. When we finally reached the churchyard, the funeral was already over, and they were coming out. My sister and I blocked Judy's way and asked her why she didn't include us in the funeral. She started yelling at us. She acted like a victim that she had just lost her husband, and we were troubling her. She said that we abandoned our father when he was alive, and now we are leeching around his dead body for property. Her daughter was no less. She abused us and threatened us to stay away from them. Judy's family members also intervened and yelled at us that we were evil and never checked upon our father when he was alive. My uncle defended us, but they were in dozens. It was such a heartbreaking and emotional day for us to lose our father. We just didn't have the energy to fight with him. We went inside and paid our tribute to the grave. Though we could not see him for the last time, I'm glad we have spent enough time with him over the last few years. We sat for an hour near his grave and consoled each other. Uncle said that he heard that Judy was organizing a prayer for Dad, but we knew we wouldn't be invited. That evil woman didn't let us attend our own dad's funeral. We could not expect her to invite us for the prayers. We left for our place immediately after that. There was no point in staying there. It's been a week since we lost him, and we are yet not able to come to the terms that he is no longer with us. We miss him so dearly. Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, OP. My heart goes out to you and your family. Although he did pass, I'm so glad you and your sister were both able to have quality time with your father. It's so incredibly cruel that Judy didn't allow you to attend your own father's funeral. What an evil woman. This will come back to bite her in the butt. Update 4. Wow, life could take such a weird turn. It's unbelievable. A few hours after my last update, I got a call from my father's lawyer. He wanted us to be present for the will reading. He said it was supposed to happen on that very day, and he had informed Judy to ask everyone to be present. She said okay, but when the lawyer arrived, he didn't find us. She said we were not required, and the will can be read in our absence. The lawyer said that Dad had mentioned very clearly that the will should be read in front of all the family members, and in that case, his firstborn son and daughter could not be left out. He gave us a week's time to fly down to his office for the will reading. My sister and I went there. Judy and her daughter were not happy to see us. They made faces. They had her family members accompanying her. I don't know them. While we were waiting for the lawyer to begin, Judy was bad-mouthing us, telling her family how stupid we were to fly down from so far just to see everything go to them. They called us greedy and said we never cared for our father and abandoned him. My sister lost it and gave it back to her. She told them it was Judy who was greedy and leeching on to Dad's money. She was the one who forced us to leave our own house before time. My sister ranted about how Dad used to be depressed living with Judy. It led to a scuffle between them, and I had to intervene. By then, the lawyer had arrived at his chamber. He started off by saying that it was Dad's final will, and he had signed it in his full senses, and whatever it was, we had to accept it. To be honest, I never took this seriously because Dad never had that great a wealth, apart from the house in which Judy lived, and some savings. Even when Dad visited us, he never talked about having any substantial wealth. Neither we had asked him ever. My sister and I both earned decently. She was into banking, and I was into consulting, so money was never a problem for us. Things took a steep turn when the lawyer started reading the will. It came as a surprise that Dad had a trust fund worth $1 million. Judy's eyes lit up for a brief period until the heir of the trust fund was called out. Dad had willed that to me and my sister. Yes, he had willed all of his hard-earned money to us. The house was willed to Judy. Nothing separate was willed to her daughter. But once she turned 18, the house would be passed to her. It meant that Judy was the temporary caretaker of the house until her daughter turned 18. The money from the joint account went to Judy. Judy was waiting for the lawyer to read the will further. Her face turned red when he said that was it. She asked about the insurance money. He pulled out the papers and said that the insurance money all belonged to the trust, which meant it goes to us, me and my sister. She started yelling at the lawyer. She said that I had bribed him to change the will. He tried to make her understand that, as an attorney, he could not manipulate his client's wishes, but Judy and her daughter continued to allege us. They stopped only when he threatened to sue them for damaging his reputation. The attorney congratulated us and said that Dad had left a special letter for us. It read, "My and my sister's names. I'm so proud to see you both flourishing in your careers. I'm sorry to ruin your childhood. I remarried to bring you a mother, but it turned out against you all. I curse myself every day for that decision. It killed me from inside when you both left the house. I knew it was because of my negligence. I could not forgive myself for that. I wanted to confront this in person, but never had the guts to bring up this topic. But thank you for forgiving me and making me a part of your life. The days I spend with your mother and the days I get to spend with both of you now are the happiest days of my life. Thank you. Dad loves you, always." It was so moving. We both hugged each other and cried. Judy's face turned pale with embarrassment. Her daughter stormed out of the cabin, saying it was too much of a drama to handle. When we came out, they were still standing outside. Judy was silent and sobbing. I don't know why, maybe because of losing everything. Her daughter charged at us that we had manipulated Dad to will us everything. She said that we didn't care for him in his entire life, and during his last days, we purposely called him to our house and made him write that will. My sister wanted to punch her in the face, but I stopped her. The lawyer asked us to stay back for a few days for the remaining paperwork to be done for the trust fund transfer. We checked into a hotel. That evening, I got a surprise visitor at my hotel room. It was Judy. She was crying, and on seeing me, she hugged me. She said she was moved by Dad's letter. She said sorry for her behavior. She said she didn't even realize that she was inflicting such pain on us and Dad. I was shocked at this. I didn't know how to react. I just sat there listening to her rambling. I told her that I would have forgotten the childhood trauma, but what she had done at the funeral was something beyond apology. She didn't let us see Dad's face for the last time. We can never forgive her for that. She again started crying and said sorry. I told her it doesn't matter now, as Dad was gone and her sorry was not going to bring him back. I asked her, what did she want? She said that Dad had not left her anything. How was she supposed to live her life? I sniffed her intentions. I asked her if I could do anything about it. She requested that I give away some money from the trust fund for her future. I laughed from the inside but kept a straight face and pretended to care for her. I asked her how much money she was expecting. She said being Dad's wife, she should at least get half the money, but she respects Dad's decision and she would settle for 30%. I couldn't control myself and laughed in her face. She was such a delusional woman. After making our life a living hell, she had the guts to tell me that she could settle with 30%. She got angry at my mad laugh. I called my sister, who was staying in the adjacent room of the hotel. I mimicked Judy's demands about the 30% to my sister. She didn't understand the reference, but seeing Judy's red, funny face, she started laughing. Judy stormed out of the room, cursing us. I told my sister how Judy was pleading with me for that trust fund money. We had a good laugh at her stupidity. We read Dad's letter at least 100 times and cried. It was with my sister. We were going to preserve it as a souvenir. I hope Dad's soul finds peace in heaven and meets Mom there. We never thought that Dad would give us his everything. That is what's about parents. They love us unconditionally even if they don't tell us. They always have our back. Thank you for hearing me out. You guys have been the best. Oh, wow. So your father didn't cheat on your mother. He was just trying to help you and your sister out. But like you said, there's no replacing your mother. He had the right intentions, but in the end, Judy was never mother material. She used your dad even after his death. I knew his mistreatment of you and your sister would come to bite her in the butt. It's nice to know that she'll never get a cent of anything. Now she can live her life knowing how putrid of a woman she is, that even her own husband couldn't stand her. What do you make of this evil stepmother? Do you have a similar story? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for following along today. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to share regarding today's content, we want to hear it. Until next time, in the R Lounge.